Welcome everybody to a Monday expert interview, and man, did we have a lot of fun this past week, and we got a heck of a week coming up for you this week as well. But today we're going to talk about the MHBA's annual meeting, Modular Home Builders Association annual meeting that just took place in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Now you may say, oh, it's another annual meeting and event, but no, not this time. The event is growing. The topics were very, very on point to everything that's happening in the industry today. And for all of you out there that didn't attend, you have to understand that the opportunities are all around us for networking, for gaining knowledge, for sharing knowledge, and advancing our industry. And today is going to be no different. We have Tom Hardiman on the show with us, along with Thomas Coronato, to recap this year's Modular Home Builders annual meeting that just took place. We're going to talk about supply chain. We're going to talk about labor shortages. Oh, and if you're in the modular industry and over engineering's been your problem, well, we covered that topic as well. So without further ado, let's hop into today's conversation. Let's bring on Tom Hardiman, and I got two Toms. I got to remember which one I'm saying first, and Tom Coronato. How you gentlemen doing today?
Great. Thanks, Dave.
It's great to have both of you. So before we kick it off, just like we always do, why don't we let people know who you are real quick? Both of you are no stranger to the show. You've been on here once or twice, or maybe even 3 times in the past or more. But that doesn't mean we don't have new followers, and we got a lot of them. So why don't we start with you, Mr. Coronato? Why don't you give us your 2-minute elevator pitch, and then we're going to hop into this conversation with Tom Hardiman.
Yeah, I work with Citizens Bank. I do new construction lending in the modular industry and just site built as well. But just working from my home for the last 12 years and 25 years in the business and still having fun.
Well, and that's what it's all about, right? Having fun. Isn't that right, Mr. Tom Hardiman? And did we have some fun last Wednesday and Thursday, or what?
I think so. I know I did, and I think Tom did. And Dave, you looked like you were having a good time. So I hope everyone else did as well.
You give me drinks and good conversation with great people. I can always have a good time. But, having a good time because you love what you do and the knowledge that you're gaining while you're doing it, that's what makes it a lot of fun. Tom, why don't you take 2 minutes, just introduce yourself so people that may have not have seen you before know who you are, and then we're going to hop into this year's event.
Well, thanks, Dave. I'm Tom Hardiman. I'm the Executive Director of the Modular Home Builders Association, which is the membership organization for the single-family modular home industry, manufacturers, builders, and suppliers. I've been the director for 9 years. I'm also the executive director of the Modular Building Institute, which is the membership organization more for the commercial applications, multifamily, educational, office space. So director of both the modular trade associations.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So, Tom, Coronato, the reason I have you on, other than you're just an outstanding individual with one of the best mustaches out there, is you've been in this industry on the lending side for a long time. You're always at these events, right, for the Modular Home Builders Association and other industry events. So you've been doing this a long time, and you have a really strong focus on modular home lending. What were you seeing at this event? And, give us kind of your insights, and where do you see the industry heading for the modular housing industry?
I mean, the event was great. It was my first face-to-face in 2 years, just to try to get out there and see everyone again. The fact that it's grown, to see all the manufacturers, some of their builders were there, but it's a room full of just, and I've taken other folks that do other industry stuff. It's always a very warm room. Everybody's sharing information. There's a lot of just really good networking time, but it's kind of interesting to just poll like the pulse. And even though naturally by nature you're with competitors, meaning there's builders and manufacturers that somewhat compete against each other, they come together sort of in like a truce of, hey, how do we make the industry grow? And you can see the growth over the last 5 years or 6 years in attendance. And the industry itself is growing, and in quote, some of our associates, it's no longer the business that's an alternative, it seems to be the solution for sure.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And Tom Hardiman, you would have to have a lot of insight on where this industry is heading, just because not only on the Home Builders Association, like you said, you're in the Building Institute, Modular Building Institute as well. The growth is extraordinary right now. So you agree with the sentiments that Tom was saying?
Oh, absolutely. And appreciate Tom. He was one of our exhibitors this year, so always thankful for that. Dave, I think you mentioned it in your intro, the opportunities for this industry. I've been in this industry 18 years, and I've never seen the level of interest and demand for modular construction, both on the residential and commercial side. So I'd echo what Tom said and what you said in your intro.
Yep. Sure. Tom, from what you're seeing from the lending side, and I think this is important for a lot of the modular home builders and the manufacturers out there, do you see it slowing up anytime soon? I mean, right now it's busy, right?
I don't see it slowing up. I mean, the regular real estate market's a melee every day. I mean, there's one house and there's 25 offers and escalation clauses, and it's selling over list. I could talk to 20, 25 people who never even thought of modular until just recently in their mind, because the general feeling, although it's not always the case, is that, it could be faster. And we're not always seeing that, but, there's supply line chains and issues. But the amount of inquiry is just relentless, because the first-time buyer is trying to find out other alternatives, because they feel like they're going to overpay. They're in a market that's really tough. So now they're looking at alternatives, and building is coming up. So now they're looking at land, and then now they're looking at modular, and they're finding that there's very few places to go for not only construction lending, but then you get into the hyper-focused segment of modular. So like the phone rings, which is a very good problem to have. But it's very eerily familiar to me to 2003, 4, and 5, where there's just a lot of cash on the sidelines, and the first-time buyers looking for their opportunity. So they need to be really educated from the beginning point of the build. How does it work? And it's actually kind of like, this time I'm prepared. In 2003, I don't know that I was. So.
We're all a little wiser from that 2003, 2008, era that we all went through. But, with that, Tom, money, is it getting cheaper or more expensive? Because I know the market is more expensive right now.
Money's money. Again, if you're going to hold off for cheaper money, you're going to lose off on more expensive materials. So, I mean, there
you go.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is.
Yeah. You know what? I've not heard anybody say that yet. And Tom, supply issues, and labor shortages were all part of the MHBA's annual events conversation and keynotes. And you're right. I mean, supply costs, are they coming down, or are they going to keep rising? Right. So you might be waiting for the market to drop, but you might end up just spending more money on the material to begin with. That's what you said.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think what happens is when you do the mathematics, if you pay a little higher on the rate and lower on the material, you pay a little higher on the material, and then you pay a higher rate. There's never a better time than to do it now. I mean, it's building for these folks. It's a long-term event anyway. You just can't get short-sighted. And I provide the mathematics and say, look, if you're borrowing $100,000, it's $400 a month on 30 years. If another $10,000, it's $40. It is $10,000. It's a lot of money. I'd bend down and pick it up if it was lying in the street, but you still got it. It's $40. So.
Yeah, I when I see a quarter, I bend down, Tom. So maybe I want to come walk around on your streets.
Yeah, really.
For sure. Well, listen, Tom, we appreciate you hopping on and giving us your insight. I mean, your takeaway from this year's event, it was the biggest event that MHBA has seen in attendance, and the amount of people showing the interest, and they flew in from all over the place this year to be part of this event. As somebody that, was a sponsor of the event and partook, in the whole event all the way through, what was your final take on it?
I look forward to 2022. I want to do it again. I mean, it's always great, and let's make it bigger. It's kind of like, let's get more people involved. There's a big push. Let's do it. So.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right, Tom, how do people get a hold of you? If you're looking for some modular lending or you have clients looking for modular lending, you got Thomas Citizens Bank. What's the best way to reach out to you?
So, email tom.coronato@citizensbank.com or, text me.
LinkedIn?
Yep. Oh, yeah, LinkedIn and all the other fun stuff that I'm sort of involved and connected to. And I appreciate you guys a lot. So.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us. So there you have it, everybody. Thomas Coronato, Citizens Bank, a banker's viewpoint on the Modular Home Builders Association annual meeting. Thomas, we will see you next time. Have a good one. We're going to hop into all the details now with Mr. Hardiman.
All right. See
Thanks,
you guys.
Tom.
Thanks.
See you later,
Bye
Tom.
now. All right, so that's always great to see Tom. He didn't show up with his big cowboy hat today,
Yeah, I didn't recognize him at first.
So if you're wondering who Tom is, Coronato, that is, just you scroll through, you see a guy in a big cowboy hat. That's who he is. He's one of the best bankers out there and a huge supporter of our industry. All right, let's get into this. Tom Hardiman, got my Toms together here. Tom, from your perspective, I know you were super excited about this, and I also know, in fact, I'm going to read it. Your exact quote to me was, "When I hear people that have been in the industry for 30 years say I learned something new today, that's a good feeling." Where did that come from? Let's talk about this event and let's talk about why it was so important for the industry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of our panels, the over engineering panel, it was Mr. Norm Hall from Simpson Strong Tie who made that comment. And my jaw just dropped because, that guy knows everything about engineering. He's been in the industry over 30 years. And he said, I learned something new today. And I just stopped. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
There's always more to learn at these shows. And I think the big takeaway for me is it feels very much like this industry is really starting to come together, trust one another, and share best practices, for the greater good. At least that was my takeaway from it.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. And it's been my takeaway too. It's always kind of been there. But the more people that are coming into our industry, newer entrants, people that maybe didn't partake so much in the associations, have all really come together. And when they talk, I mean, it's been an experience like no other for them. Just even on my own, people would say I had no idea that people would, open up so much and tell me so much about their business. I mean, some even, they'll share their numbers with you, which is unheard of.
Yeah, and someone mentioned that there's I don't know if there's a perception out there in our industry that we don't share, but certainly my experience has been, we had a panel talking about workforce housing, and we had two manufacturers up there talking about what they do to retrain and attract employees, and in a room full of manufacturers, many of whom are drawing from the same geography. So, I found that refreshing that they're saying, look, we're all kind of struggling with this issue. Here's what we do. So yeah, it was a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it really was a good feeling. All right, so the hot topics that we went through, we talked about, supply chain. We talked about, the workforce issues that we're having. We, all the way into incarcerated people helping out. Yeah. And then we talked about over-engineering. And I'm going to leave that one for last because that is such a hot topic in this industry for anybody that's been in the modular world. So why don't we start with, the supply chain? And why was this conversation so important? Because it was also tied to escalation clauses and everything else when the knowledge started coming out of the keynote speaker. Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview on that?
Sure. Well, yeah, you're right. Our first two speakers, one was Scott Bliss, who's a Sandler training program and did a great job. The reviews are coming in great on him. Our second speaker was an attorney that I know very well, and he understands our industry, which is important, talking about controlling material price escalation in your contracts.
Right.
And that was just a great dovetail into the first panel conversation of supply chain issues, which everyone's having them. We literally just called some of the vendors up on stage and said, tell us what's going on in your companies. We had a national builder there, Kelly Williams from Vesta Modular, invited him on the panel because he has a national footprint.
Right.
And he rambled off a list of all the products he was having trouble getting. And it would have been way easier just to say, what are you getting on time? Because it was everything. Garage doors, he can't get appliances, paint, pretty much everything that goes into a house our builders are having difficulty getting, which
yeah. And some of the bigger players are buying their own planes and just going and picking it up.
Right. So yeah, someone mentioned that, and I thought, well, I guess whatever you have to do. And they mentioned going around to job sites and picking up 5-gallon buckets of paint and kind of, I don't know, reusing, recycling, making sure they're using it all.
Right. Well, and that's really what it is. And I think the biggest thing is what comes out of that conversation, at least from where I was sitting, was, people at the table started having their own little roundtable conversations on, well, how are you addressing these issues? Well, my windows are, 40 weeks out of this supplier, but this supplier has them in 6 weeks. I mean, these are the things that people, are learning from each other and sharing amongst each other at this event. And I think that's such a big takeaway, especially if you're in this industry.
Well, I know one of our panelists basically said, and it's a great sales pitch, if we have it in stock and you need it, buy it now, because we may not have it next week.
Right.
Which is great if you're a salesperson. If you're a builder or manufacturer, puts a little pressure on you. But
sure.
I imagine there was some purchases made at that show. I know for a fact one builder's went over to the window supplier and just said, what do you have in stock? I'm having my purchase manager call you right now.
Yep. And buy it. And you know what? We've been seeing that at the shows this year, and yours was no different. The people that were there, the sponsors, the vendors, the suppliers at the show, I mean, their booths were not without people there trying to figure out how to get the products and what the new products are and what the alternatives are if they don't have it. So a lot of your suppliers will have alternatives if they don't have what you're looking for. And that's just as important as well to keep your projects and your jobs moving along. All right, so we covered the supply chain issue. What about labor shortages? Now, you had a panel on labor and what people are doing up there. You had manufacturers sitting up there talking about what they're doing. What did you hear?
Well, I learned a lot on that one. I know there's always challenges, but we really got a lot of tips on retaining your key employees, to avoid the labor shortage in the first place. Make sure you're able to keep your good employees. And I just put a post on our forum today, just summarizing everyone's great ideas on how do you keep your best employees. And it was everything from, the basic stuff, show them you care, thank them for the job they're doing. Some people do catered lunches for their employees. Some are giving attendance bonuses, like show up to work and we'll pay you more. Just a lot of good ideas out there, but a couple of areas, and you alluded to one earlier, of maybe untapped labor pools. Our industry is not great with diversity, with minorities and women. So there's possibility to recruit in underserved populations, veterans. There's a lot of programs that try to help place veterans that are rotating back into the public sector. Tap into those resources. And then lastly, one of our attendees mentioned that they use prison labor. There's a nearby facility, and they said some of the best employees they have. They literally bust them over every day. They work all day. They get on the bus and they show up every day, because their alternative is
go back to prison.
So I'm not saying that's a great sales point, but it's a way that it
is a win-win.
Addressed some labor shortages, and it helps get people back on their feet, after they've, served their time. So a lot of options. I think we're to the point now where the manufacturers in particular are just going to have to really explore all of those options.
Sure. Well, we've been hearing about the the prison labor, incarcerated, being able to work, and it's an awesome opportunity, because that's one sector that, while we have an overpopulation of our prisons, two, they need to come out and work. They normally can't get a job. So why not work with the prison, right, to put some programs in place and give people a second chance? I think everybody deserves a second chance. Now, I'm sure there's some out there that don't probably deserve it. In fact, we all
need to stay locked up for a little longer. But there are state and federal programs available that will even provide tax incentives if you hire certain people in underserved groups, and that includes veterans and
that's right,
ex-offenders, and
sure.
I'm sure there's some qualifying, but the manufacturers don't have to create the program themselves. Those programs exist.
Yeah, they definitely do exist. And most of the prison systems, from my understanding, already have those programs in place. You don't have to recreate the world. Just go and talk to them about it.
But make sure you're keeping your good employees. Treat your employees well.
That's it, because you need the good employees to mentor the new employees, and that's
Right.
super important. And the ones that are showing up, putting in the time, bringing new ideas to the table, and advancing, what you're doing. They're worth their weight in gold, as they say, and I think that's super important. And it was part of the topic. It's not just getting new employees or new team members. I like to say team members.
Right.
It's about retaining who you have. So, for sure.
It was Lynn Coons at Apex said if his employee recruits another employee and they last 90 days, he gives that person a $500 bonus. So it's incentive to go, get all your employees recruiting for your company. You might get a nice little bonus.
You know what? They incentivize for that. And I think it was also, Lynn, it was one of the planets up there. They also incentivize for production time, getting things down the line and getting it down the line without defects, right? It's not just, can I get it done and slap it together? There's a value add there for the employees at a lot of these manufacturing facilities that I think is awesome, right? You do good, you bust your butt, you make it happen. Clients are happy on the other end when it comes out. You're going to get a bonus check on top of it. How cool is that?
Share the wealth. Absolutely.
That's it. All right, Tom. So let's go into the over-engineering topic. This has been a thorn in a modular builder's side for years. The manufacturers have also been kind of stuck with what the third parties do, and this isn't a bash on third parties. They do a lot of great stuff for us, a ton of great stuff. But there is some over-engineering that happens, and I think it was Harris Woodward, right? Finish Works. You could see steam started coming out of his ears, talking about it because the passion's there. What's your thought on over-engineering, and how are we addressing it as an industry?
Well, I'll be honest. When we first talked about this panel, my thought was, what are we required to do as a modular industry that site-built contractors are not required to do? So it was more of our industry's being over-engineered. And then to Harris, a Maryland builder, really started drilling down and saying, that's true, but we are also adding additional burdens onto ourselves just by the way we do things. And God love him, he had prints and plans there, and we handed them out, and he had them on the screen, just showing one example. And a lot of it has to do, it's kind of common sense stuff. It gets down to communication. Right. The manufacturer sends their plan to be reviewed and approved by an engineer. They engineer it, kick it over to the third party who says, well, yeah, this will meet code if you do it this way. Send it back to the builder, and then the builder, and in this case, Harris said, what the hell? There's 26 tie downs on this home. This is going to cost me $12,000. What came out of that conversation, I think, was maybe this better understanding that the third parties are not, in some cases, not necessarily there to say, there's a better way to engineer this.
Yeah.
I got the takeaway that they said, yes, this will meet code. It'll vastly exceed code if you do it this way. But that message wasn't getting back to the manufacturer like, hey, you know what? Your engineer overdid it a little here. If you turn the box this way, or try this, or try a different product, we may be able to save $5,000 or $10,000.
That's
time. A lot of people are busy. Then it's got to go back through re-engineering and the builder's pressure. So there's a lot of time-sensitive issues that are happening. But when you have 4 different parties looking at the plans, you got to be able to communicate that better. Like, is this the most cost-effective way to build this home in a safe way?
And I guess the
conversations are happening.
The question then with something like that is whose responsibility is that to make sure that it's not being over-engineered? Is it NTA or the third party? I just use NTA as an example. Or is it the engineer? Is it the builder's experience to throw up a red flag and say, hey, listen, I've never had to put 12 tie downs on any house like that, or is it a collaboration of all 3? Well,
I personally hope it's not on the builder at the very end to catch these things.
Right.
Really, to me, I guess it's the engineer, if anyone else, saying, instead of, well, this is the way I used to do it, or this is the way I always do it, to look at each one and say,
Yeah.
if I change this, or if the manufacturer did that, we've got to start thinking about cost as well, because you add $12,000 to the cost of a single family home, that's a chunk of change.
Yeah. That's Tom Coronato stop and pick it up money.
Yeah, I might pick that up too. But and maybe Tom looks at that and says, I'm not financing. Now
Right.
the cost exceeds the appraised value, so we've got to think about those things. But affordable housing is a huge hot button topic, and
Right.
We've really got to be able to keep things a little tighter in terms of engineering costs.
Sure.
Not suggesting we sacrifice safety at all, but I think we proved with that particular case that it could have been engineered differently and saved several $1,000s.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I don't think anybody wants to sacrifice safety. I think, sometimes it's hard. People figure out their math differently when you're in the structural engineering world, and there's liability tied to it, so there's a whole lot that happens when you get into putting your name on something. So I can understand that as well.
Absolutely. This may infuriate a lot of our members, but if it were me and I was a manufacturer, periodically I would review my engineer and my third party and have that conversation and say, is this still a good fit for all of us?
Right.
Do I need to consider a different engineer or a different third party? Or maybe the third party says, I'm tired of dealing with this manufacturer.
Yeah.
Reevaluate those relationships periodically.
Right.
It doesn't get too stale. I think some things could potentially slip by. I'm not suggesting it did. I'm just think if I were a manufacturer, I would want to make sure my engineers staying on top of it and providing the best, most efficient way to do things.
And said another way, they're all so busy. It's slowing down is hard sometimes, right? To double check and triple check, and where's the value add? Slowing down or getting product to the consumer who's waiting on it. There's all these different variables. So with that said, you're right though. There has to be some checks and balances, and we're going to start seeing more of that with some of the new technology coming out. Technology, digital twins, design for manufacturer assembly, generative design, parametric design, all of these things are starting to make their way into our industry in a big, big way. And I think that's going to help people visualize these plans a lot better, so you can see when something seems a little out of place versus looking at a set of blueprints.
Yeah, and more states accepting plans electronically. Hopefully that'll all start speeding up and making things more efficient. For
sure. All right, Tom, let's hop into, codes and ethics and all the other fun stuff that we want to touch on today. So what do we have coming up? We got, obviously you're already starting next year's planning for the MHBA's annual event. And I'm sure it's probably going to be double, triple, maybe even 5,000 times the amount of people. I don't know what's going to happen, but if it keeps going the way it's going, you're going to need a bigger hotel.
Well, that's why we moved it this year. I love the Hershey Hotel, and it's a great venue, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get their large ballroom, so we kind of outgrew it. So we bounced it down to the Hilton in Harrisburg. We're looking at it. We're getting a lot of feedback saying, the reason we do it in Harrisburg is because there's, a dozen manufacturers within driving distance, and that's most of the audience. But we're looking at some other ideas, maybe doing a nicer, maybe a resort type place and stretch it out and let people come for a few days to work and have a day to do some fun stuff.
Right. Hey, maybe we need to have two of them, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, and then get everybody just to meet in the middle eventually.
Or not.
Or not. Yeah. Or just keep them. Well, I love it. Tom, you do so much for the industry, with the modular industry, not only at the MHBA, but MBI as well. World of Modular is another big event that you guys have grown to extraordinary levels. What do we want to know? Tell us what we want to know, Tom. Like, what's happening in the industry? I know you had some codes recently passed, right? So you can talk about those as well. But where are we headed as an industry, and what kind of data are you guys collecting? Because we know it's all about the data.
Yeah. Okay. And this is a little bit of my canned speech. I've been doing this for 18 years. I am still really jacked up about this industry. It's still very exciting. Still feels very new. And it's because it's just changing so fast. And the last 3 or 4 years has just been, particularly on the commercial side, on MBI, we have owner, developers, architects joining the organization, wanting to be on our board of directors, really changing the look and feel in a lot of aspects of the association. But we still have these great core members that have been with us, for 30 years that kind of are the backbone of the industry still. Big show on the commercial side is next April 25th through 28th, I believe, in San Antonio. And I see Andrew there from San Antonio coming to your neck of the woods next year, Andrew. That'll be a great show. I'm not just saying this, but it'll probably sell out because it's a smaller resort. And the conference has been growing year over year, despite COVID. So back in person next year for that one. I was thrilled at the way MHBA's conference turned out. It's about 100, 105 people, which doesn't sound like a big number, but that was our biggest show. We've been building it up year over year. So we're looking at really making that one into a bigger conference, more networking, more exhibitors,
right.
Just really scale it up to that next level. So there is so much happening, Dave. You hear every day, you're talking to people. The housing demand is off the charts. The labor's tight. The supply's tight. Everyone's looking for that magic answer, and it's not there. But I do think our industry can and will play a much bigger role in our nation's infrastructure needs, not just housing, schools, office, healthcare, for crying out loud. I mean, COVID really put a spotlight on that.
The residential and the commercial side is booming. So my last World of Modular was 2019, I think was the last in person, right?
Well, we snuck it in 2020. We finished on that Friday in March. The following Monday, everyone shut down.
Yep, that's right. I caught a flight home. I was there. And I have to tell you, that was the last
conference in Orlando, I think.
It was the last conference in Orlando, and it was huge. I mean, the amount of people, like the Europeans came. I mean, it wasn't just, United States and Canada. It was, I mean, there was a huge European contingency there.
They show up in force. I love our European members. We've got about 25 of them now. We are looking at doing an event in Europe next year, just putting that out there, modular tax write-off type event in Europe. It will be business.
We love that. Hey, I'm going to be doing some tours in Switzerland January 15th. I'll be over showcasing what we're doing, which will be fun.
Chilly.
It might be a little chilly, Tom, but it's a trip to Europe. What the heck, man? We're going to go and we're going to highlight. And the fact that it may be chilly outside, but inside a manufacturing facility, it's always 70 and sunny, Tom. So we're going to be just fine. But yeah, World of Modular is a big event. San Antonio, and he's right. I saw Andrew Seeley. He's in the comments here somewhere. Let me go up here. There's some other players in the comments. So there's Andrew. Howdy from San Antonio. 2i VIP. Tom's on today. Yeah, I agree with you. And actually, Greg Ugaldi says a pair of Toms to beat a royal flush. I love it. Do you know Greg, Tom?
Yeah, I think I've met him on your show.
Yeah. Well, he definitely, Greg Ugaldi, the immediate past chairman of NAHB. So he's doing great things. It's great. And I know that MBI, MHBA, you guys are collaborating and working with the other industry leaders and the other associations. And that just says so much.
Yeah, we actually worked with NAHB this past year on, so we got our industry standards finalized. We worked with ICC on those. So there's 2 industry standards now. We tried to get them adopted in the 2024 IBC, the Commercial Building Code. And we got close, but we didn't quite make it. But NAHB was there to help support in the wings. We're going to take what we learned from that. And January, the residential code cycle starts. So we're looking to submit our comments for January for the 2024 IRC. And absolutely we'll reach out to NAHB and their code consultants and their team. They're fantastic people. And talking about residential code, you got to have NAHB on board with you or it's not going anywhere. So yeah, we want to work with them. basically to get this new standard. And the standard, just real quick, I don't want to bore all your viewers.
Go.
It's just a standard approval process. How do you approve modular and offsite components? What are the requirements for third parties? What are your requirements for quality control manuals? It just standardizes all of that language. And our goal is to get that reference in the residential building code this next cycle.
Right. Well, and that's it. And we have to collaborate as an industry. We got to start coming together to drive it's a common goal to drive it forward. And when it comes to codes and standards, it affects all of us. And you got to come together to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the industry as well as just our own personal needs of, whatever building type you're into moving forward. All right. So, Tom, we talked about World of Modular 2022. Before we wrap it up here, why don't you give us the industry insight? What are you seeing from data? How are we growing? How are we trending? Where do we go from here? And what can we expect in 2022?
Crazy rapid growth. We do on MBI side, we put out a call for data. We get information from about 80 of our manufacturers, their revenue, their production data, what markets they're in, and many of them are doing multifamily as well. And we're starting to get that data from our residential manufacturers. So on the commercial side, it's about an $8 or $9 billion industry just for volumetric modular in North America. It's about $3 billion or so on single family modular only, not panelized, not HUD. But absolutely seeing a trend to where it's growing. Multifamily, in fact, is the fastest growing market for the modular industry. Went from virtually nothing 3 years ago to 7% of all the factory output to 21% of all the factory output. So it's, and I imagine
wow,
when we wrap up 2021, it'll be in the mid-20s again.
That's a big growth. Are you seeing any of the multifamily modular folks or even residential looking at build for rent? Is that a hot topic in your inner circle there?
Yeah, and it's there. I don't know that there's any one business model that's sticking yet. We have several owner developers that are working with our industry. We have some that have taken it upon themselves to open their own factories, which is interesting.
Hey, look at Ken Semler, right? Impressive Modular.
Ken, we've got a developer in Atlanta, Georgia that opened a factory. We've got one out west, one up in Michigan that's doing it. So that's a model, the manufacturers are slammed. If the owner says, I want to use modular, but I can't find a manufacturer to work with for the next year, their wheels start turning and think, well, maybe if it's this busy, maybe I'll open my own factory.
Right.
So I think we're going to see more factories come online. We're going to have some hits and misses. We're going to have some companies that go under, but I think that has much less to do with this idea of modular and much more to do with maybe bad management decisions.
Right.
And that's probably true of any industry, but I think we're going to see more factories or more lines come on in the next year or two, primarily to address housing.
Sure. Listen, It feels like, the time is here for modular housing, offsite in general, just better ways to build it. We can build it better, right? And that's just the way it is. And I think people are really starting to catch on to it.
Well, I don't know that we have much of a choice. We've got to move to some degree away from a labor-intensive process because the labor isn't there. The demand's high, the labor isn't there. We can't just market ourselves to get more young people excited about construction because it's not happening. So we've got to get the ones we can. By the way, I saw something today. Carpentry, plumbers, electricians, you can make 50, 60 grand a year with a high school diploma. Can we start pushing people in that direction? I mean, that's not bad money for someone with a high school degree. And I can't find a plumber. I can't get an electrician to come to my house.
You're absolutely right. I mean, in HVAC, mechanicals, they're paying top dollar. It would take, to go to college and get a 4-year degree and come out and make the kind of money you can make in the trades. If you're in 4 years in the trade, you're probably going to be at 60, 70, 80,000 a year. So that's kind of the difference there, and a big push. And, we're making a big push even on our show. We're already into the universities and streaming into the classrooms. We're making a push to the high schools as well. We want to get into the high schools, and we want to get all the way down to the elementary schools with some of the programming we're doing. So really super excited, looking forward to it, because I think it's going to catch on. Eventually it has.
We're obviously going to keep pushing a career in modular construction.
Yeah.
But I think we've got a little bit of an edge if we can talk about, it's not necessarily out in the inclement weather and driving all over the place. You're coming to one workplace.
Yep.
You might get to operating in a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment that day and build a whole house that day. That's kind of cool. So
it is cool.
Tap into a little bit of that coolness factor. And
yeah, we talk about this all the time. Most people are never sold on modular until they walk into a modular manufacturing facility. And then it seems like the light bulbs go off. And then you got Dave Cooper sitting there going, I've been telling you this for years. What do you mean? Yeah. But they don't get it until they go there.
You have to see it. You really do.
You do got to see it. You got to see it.
It's a cool process when you see it coming out of the factory. Like, oh, you just built the whole hotel in that building. Yes, that's what we're talking about.
We did. And you'll be able to sleep in about 4 months. So stay tuned.
Yeah,
that's cool. How that works. Let's say hi to a couple people real quick. So who do we got here? We got Scott Saddam joining us from Northern Michigan today. What's happening, Scott? Thank you for joining us. Andrew, comment
on your program in Michigan. We're talking with your state people. We lifted the hiring freeze for the department. They're going to be able to hire more plan review folks and hopefully speed up the approval process there.
There you go. Thanks for tuning in, Scott. See, always good news when you tune in to Dave Cooper Live. You gotta love it. You guys got to keep tuning in. We're giving away 5 full access passes to NAHB this year. Hey, maybe we can give away an access pass to the world of modular this year to grow some hype and have some fun. I don't know if anybody knows who's in charge of that program, but if you know who he is, let me know. Maybe we'll figure that out. Love it. We got John Magnan joining us today. Thanks, Tom. So important to have standards. Some states are a breeze, others not so much. Yeah, this isn't like one European country. You're dealing with all the states, and it is not the same across the board. And I think it's a tall order to get it to happen everywhere. Very good, very good. Now this LinkedIn user, Northborough, Mass. Fall is here. I think that was. Let me see who that was. His name's not popping. Peter Molinar. What's happening, Peter? How come your LinkedIn profile stuff isn't showing? It is now, though. Let me see. Is that the right one? No, that's not it. That's John Harding. Hey, John. John, you got to fix that so your name shows up.
On our panel.
Yeah, that's right. John, you got to fix it, man. Come on. I give you all the promo and props. John is a heck of a guy, and he was a big sponsor of MHBA this year. More than happy if you want to say something about him.
Yeah, he was actually on our supplier panel, so offered some great insight and appreciate them exhibiting and participating.
For sure. Love it. All right. So we also have, now I'll get to Peter Molinar. I'm sorry, Peter. My apologies. I didn't mean to yell at you. What strategies have been developed to educate the consumer and lending institutions about the superior quality of prefab panels and modular construction? That's a great question, Peter. Thank you.
And I've got a great answer. I've got 2 great answers. On the commercial side, we worked with Fannie Mae a couple years ago. They were very reluctant to finance modular multifamily, particularly condos. They didn't understand it. It went to their special underwriting department. It added 6 weeks and $10,000 to cost. So we worked with them. They now have a lender's toolkit for multifamily modular projects. Boom, that's out there. It's available. They sent it to their whole network. Hopefully their lenders are better versed at modular construction. On the residential side, you just had Thomas Coronato here. We work with folks like that. We just put a buyer's guide out this year on our website at modularhome.org. It's really aimed at the consumer, the home buyer. But we've absolutely sent that to lenders, insurance agents, lawyers. What the request we're getting for speaking is not, necessarily the buyer. It's all these different audiences within our network. The legal, the building code folks. So it's a constant effort, and it's not just us alone. It's folks at NAHB and the other trade associations. We think we're doing a lot of great work, but inevitably you'll get some code official or someone that calls you and says, I had no idea this modular thing existed. You're like, really? You just
Yeah.
didn't know about it at all?
Well, you know what? We need more consumer press on this. We need more mainstream press. So, we're gaining it slowly and, slowly but surely it's gaining traction. And when people can't get their houses built, well, guess what? They have to look for the alternatives of what we do as an industry. And I think that's really where it's headed. So, all right,
Yeah.
Scott Saddam, he's calling you out, Tom. He's calling you out. He's saying in his area, let's see, he had another one. In his area, 50, 60,000. Man, they're starting at 80, 90, and 100 for skills like
I'm just reading the Bureau of Labor Statistics data for nationwide average. Yell at them. I agree with you.
No, he's not calling you out.
You couldn't.
This is great.
You go to New York or some of these urban areas, and you offer 50 or 60s, you're going to get laughed at.
Right. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. New England's the same way, but I mean, come on, that is unheard of. Now is the time to get into the trades and the business. I mean, if you want to get in and just make a lot of money, have a great time doing it, working with great people, this is the place to be right now. And to me, it's just like a little golden egg that people just haven't found it yet. But when they do, it'll be like the airline rushes back in the.
I may be wrong, but I may not. In 18 years, I don't know of anyone that has left this industry. They have changed companies. They've gone into different areas. I don't know of anyone that has left this industry. I'm sure there's someone.
Yeah, you're right.
I can't think of who that is right now. Once they're in, they stay in this industry. So that should say something.
So Scott Saddam says he's not ignoring me. He's just in an area he has to keep his sound off. We're good, Scott, man. I appreciate you all tuning in. Tom, look at that, man. We're at our time. We're at an hour. We're at our 50-minute mark. It's 1:52. Tom Hardiman, Modular Home Builders Association. Tom, we got some fun things coming up. The industry's opening up. The trades are opening up. World of Modular is coming. And I love that event. I love that it's out in San Antonio. So a lot of our followers are out in the West Coast. It'll make it easy for them to come to that show. And the Riverwalk, if you haven't ever seen the Riverwalk in San Antonio, you got to go check it out. I was stationed there when I was in the service at Fort Sam Houston for a while.
Excellent.
So,
well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
If you're on the Riverwalk, there's a 21-story Hilton hotel that is a modular hotel. It was built in 1969 by Zachary Construction, still operational. There's a modular hotel right there on the Riverwalk.
Right. And I'm sure it's as beautiful as all the other buildings in San Antonio on the Riverwalk. And I bet I've been in it myself.
You probably have.
All right. Tom, is there anything that you want to leave us with? Is there anything you want to push for other than we need more members? The more members we have, the more opportunity it is to fight for your rights, fight for codes, fight for standards, protect your rights. These are all the things that Tom does on a regular day. So what do you got, Tom?
Yeah, that's it, Dave. We're a membership-based trade organization, both MBI and MHBA. The more members we have, the more resources we have to fight these issues. We just promoted our government affairs director, John Hannes-Pacagna, to assistant executive director because we want to put a little more resources behind MHBA. We're bringing on a part-time marketing coordinator next week just for MHBA, but we need more resources, and that means more members.
That's right.
I can tell you this, I don't want to jinx it, but when people have an issue, they will call John and somehow he fixes it. Hey, I got a code official. They're holding up my project. Can you help? He's like 10 for 10 this year on fixing issues. He's the fixer. But here's the key. Don't wait until the thing's about to blow up and then say, well, I'm totally out of options. Let me call MHBA and see if they can help. Get us in early. It's like a good modular project. The earlier we can get involved, the more benefit we can be for you.
Yep. Got to be in the planning stages.
Yeah, do it. Let us know what you're about to work on, and we can give you a heads up. Oh my gosh, that's a problem area for this industry, or that's a great state to do business in. You'll knock it out of the park in that one.
That's right. I mean, listen, if you're having code issues or state issues or building official issues, this is where you come to get answers or to put up the good fight if you need to, if somebody doesn't understand what's going on. So down below at MHBA, modularhome.org, go there and register. And also, Tom, We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and now we are live on Twitter as well. So get your tweets on, everybody. We got it everywhere. So, and also, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you need to go there and subscribe. It may blow your mind, but we are having well over 120,000 minutes every month watched. That is 24 hours a day times, I don't know, like 5 days or something. I don't know what that is, but it really is being consumed, and we're grateful for all the support. But if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It just helps us see that we're doing the right thing, and it lets us know to keep putting up the good fight on our end as well. Tom, we got a couple quick comments. Well, hold the show. Hold the show. Mr. Bob Bender said hello. Great kudos to Tom, the staff, MHBA, and the volunteers that keep making this association grow. Help support the industry. Bob Bender, Commodore Associate. Amazing person right here. And I have to tell you, he's a huge industry expert and leader for our industry. So that's awesome, Bob. Thanks for saying hello.
Yeah, Bob's the past chair of MHBA and one of the biggest supporters of our consumer awareness program, which is our cooperative industry marketing program. Yeah. $10 per floor manufactured. The manufacturers send it to us, and that's our pool of resources we use to help promote the industry. And Commodore was signed up early and just consistently supports the industry marketing program. So you guys that aren't members, you're benefiting from people like Bob Bender paying for the marketing. So
that's right. That's right. And Bob, I hope you made it home. I hope you got some rest. I know you were on the road for a couple weeks, man. So it was great catching up with you. But these are the types of people that you're going to meet when you come to the association. Bob Bender, Ken Semler, Harris Woodward, right? I mean, if I don't name them all, I'm going to get in trouble, right? But there's so many.
Lynn Coons.
Right.
These are the CEOs of the company.
That's right. Gary Fleischer's there, doing his thing. I mean, there's just so much happening. So, all right. Well, listen, Tom, don't go anywhere. Everybody else, listen, we got a big week. We're going to be live on location in Maryland with ModLogic, and we're going to be talking about a 100,000 square foot project that has 65,000 square foot of modular classrooms, learning areas, nurses' stations, reception, conference rooms, hallways, restrooms. We're going to be there live on location this Wednesday, giving you an inside look, interviewing some people. I don't know how I'm going to make it through 65,000 square feet in a live show, but I don't know. We'll figure something out as we do it. So we got a big week for you. And stay tuned. Always building science. We love our BS Fridays. Join for that. And dang, Tom, I can't believe I skipped something else. We got a big show coming up on MEP. That's right, modular MEP manufacturers. It's not just about the modular building manufacturers. The MEP manufacturers are getting into the modular world as well and developing systems that are plug and play while you're building to help you speed it up. And in some cases, save months over months on big projects. What do you think about that, Tom?
Well, I think it's great, which is why we're working with the ICC on a new standard, 1210 for MEP. So we're going to standardize that process as well. So you learn all about it.
Really?
Show.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, there's a whole lot. M Suite is our Wednesday show. You want to check that out if you're looking to build that into your system. All right, listen, Tom, we're over on time. Everybody else out there, hit that like and share button right now. If you are not following Tom Hardiman, you should be following him. Tom is all over the place. And also, if you are not following the MHBA or MBI, go there and follow them, especially if you're interested in this industry or you're in this industry. If you don't, you're wrong. Outside of that, Tom, you stay tight right there. And everybody else, have a wonderful Monday. Don't eat too much of that sugar. That's not good for you from Halloween. But I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Thanks, guys.